So we're finally back from vacation and S63 is still in disarray. There's parts everywhere. Now I've got a chair for the Sprinter van, some mock-up intakes I was working with, but we've got a little bit of progress. We've got the main bearings for these things. These are the upper and lower half bearings. Half of these are going to go into this block here, and I'm going to mount the ones into the block. I'm going to see if I can mount them and leave them like that without the block actually going anywhere, and I'm going to, maybe we can see if the crank will spin, because apparently there's a few different kinds of these bearings, a couple of different thicknesses. I think these are the blue ones, so we'll see how these things fit up, and we'll see if we can't get the crank in and get it a good turn. Okay, now that we've got this block turned over, this is what one of the new bearings looks like. Nice and pretty. Here's what I meant by blue. And the way you can orientate these to install them is there's this little divot here. It's cut out kind of. Leave that focus. Yeah, it's cut out kind of, and there's divots that go here into the block, so they can only go one way, so you can't really install these wrong. And you'll know the lower from the upper bearings. There's an oiling hole here on the lower bearings, and they correspond to these oiling holes here, so the crankshaft will stay nice and lubricated. We'll throw these in. I don't think you need any lubrication on this side, but we'll put some assembly lube on here and see to throw the crank on, see if it spins properly, and then maybe we'll throw the bearings on that lower pan, lube it up, and just put it on top of here, no silicone or anything, and see how well it spins, just to make sure that these clearances are good. And also, so no one forgets, these things actually use what's called a thrust bearing, and that goes on this crank journal here. You see I have one just on there. That one goes in this orientation, and this one will go like this on the other side, and then we'll drop the bearings in. Now this is what the bearings look like completely installed. They'll sit flush on both ends here and here. You shouldn't be able to feel the edge. Well, not really. It's right there. It looks like we have the correct bearings for these things, because there's a few different part numbers. Blue, red, yellow is the color code that's here on the side of the bearing. I just checked the old bearings, and these are actually blue also, so they have the same last 4 digits as the part number, so we're good. Now, just to get these things lubed up. As for lubricants, we're going to use this Redline synthetic assembly lube. It breaks down, it's a gel, and it breaks down into motor oil. It's actually made from motor oil. So we'll get these bearings all nice and lubricated and throw the crank on here, see if we can't get this thing to spin. Start to breathe some life into this project. Okay, the crankshaft is now all lubed up. All the main journals have lube on them. Just some writing from the machine shop. So the machine shop says this thing is good, it's balanced, it's straight, so they didn't have to do any machine work. Everything's within spec, so let's see how this thing fits in. So there it is, and happy to report, it turns nice and easy. All right, this is gonna go well, hopefully. So now, I guess I'll just leave these markings from the machine shop on here. Now let's see if I can throw these bearings on here, up on the lower pan, throw this on top, and just see if this thing works. So it's starting to come together. Okay, so lower part of the motor. Now, interesting thing about the M156, all the main caps are actually part of this windage tray in this lower half of the block. Usually these things are all separate pieces, but on the M156 it's all one unit, and the bearings go on about the same way. These don't have any oiling ring. Look how pretty that is, but it's got this same groove in here that fits into these slots, so there's only one way to put these bearings in. So we'll get these in, lubed up, and throw it on top of the block and see how the crank rotates. And it's nice and smooth, we're good to go. Okay, bed plate is on for a mock-up, and it spins. I just caught my finger. It spins really, really well. No kind of grinding noise. Bearings seem to be good. So we're going to continue with this. Now, before this bed plate gets bolted up, we can actually install the pistons, and that requires a special tool, which we don't have, but we're going to make one, and that's going to be fun. And that'll probably be on the next video. Soon the pistons will be able to drop in this thing. Then we'll be able to RTV seal this up, bed plate bolt, and then the rest of this thing can go together. So we'll assemble the bottom end first. Once the lower oil pan is on, we'll put the oil pump and everything on, turn it down, and then we'll put the heads on, and then we'll work on, actually no, we won't put the heads on first. We'll work on this front timing chain. We'll get the sprocket on here, the one for the oil pump, and then the chain will hang down. As we assemble it, we'll turn it over, we'll put the faceplate on it, turn it over, then the heads will go on, and then we'll get to timing the camshafts. We got the specialty tools for that, but for today, I think this is done. This is gonna be a lot of progress for me right now, especially because I've been away for a month, but this is where it's going.